Ian Kinsler played 14 seasons in Major League Baseball. He made 4 All-Star teams, won 2 Gold Gloves as a second baseman, and received MVP votes in 4 different seasons. He's a 2-time member of the 30-30 Club, 30 homers, 30 steals in the same season, and won a World Series with the Boston Red Sox in 2018. He also hit a home run in his final at-bat, and even though he's been a second baseman his whole career, at that moment, he was hitting from the pitcher's position. Now that is a rare exclusive club. And here's one more. Ian is now the first baseball digital athlete NFT in the UFF sports ecosystem. Ian, welcome to the family. Congratulations. And how does that feel?
Now being a part of it, I think it's a great place to be. I think that this realm, this fantasy baseball and the ultimate fantasy baseball is as close as you can get to the game. So, to be a part of it and be the first, I think is pretty cool.
Our motto is never stop playing, as you are hashtag unretired in the digital athlete space. So you will be playing in the Legends League against some of the best players of all time. What do you think that's going to feel to see your digital athlete back in action?
I think it's going to be great as long as there's no muscles to pull and, I don't have to do any running or anything like that. I think it's great because the injury risk has gone way up with retirement. But, being a part of it, I think after the retirement and then, obviously seeing your stats still in play and your in play, I think is a really cool feeling to have. And, hopefully a lot of other players join, ex-players and current players, and the owners of these teams can definitely be a little bit more interactive with the players of the league of MLB and lead to some really cool interaction.
So when you step up to the plate in our Simulation Fantasy Legends League, what pitcher in all of baseball's almost 150-year history would you like to face, and why?
What pitcher? The first guy that comes to mind is Nolan Ryan. The strikeout king. The guy was ahead of his time with velocity and, running that 4-seamer up in the zone, like you see guys that are throwing, high velocity fastballs, and then obviously the big curveball. I think for me, it would be a great matchup just because, velocity never really bothered me, and the big curveball never really bothered me. I knew you started throwing the changeup and everything, but, it was really like the sinkers and the stuff that ran into me because I stand on top of the plate were the pitches that made me a little indecisive. So, being able to stand in the box against Nolan Ryan would probably be the one guy that I miss.
UFF Sports is revolutionary in the fact that we are getting current and past athletes involved so they get rewarded financially thanks to their digital athlete NFT participating in fantasy gameplay. That is definitely next level stuff. So what would be your message to other athletes out there, past or present, about getting their NFT minted and getting in the game?
Yeah, I think it's just a great place to interact with the game and stay involved, and it's so realistic. It goes to what is actually happening, and you see guys play fantasy football on CBS or Yahoo or whatever, and you see fantasy baseball leagues kind of the same, but it's just a shell of what is available. And when you get involved in this, it's they follow all the same rules, and you got draft picks and you got scouts and you got you can have a whole front office. So to be a part of something like that, I think is relatable for ex players and players that are currently playing. So that would kind of be my pitch, is that it's just so close to the real thing that there's it just makes for so much more fun.
We are talking only 30 franchises and full rosters, just like when you played. Well, 26-man rosters will have a 40-man list, and a full minor league system is being planned, as well as a massive scouting platform. What would you say to a potential owner out there that is looking at getting into this game?
I mean, it's as close as it gets. And that was kind of what drew me to it, is that being in the front office with the Padres, um, and trying to understand the ins and outs of everything and the moves and the whatever it may be, all the different rules that apply to off the field in baseball, all apply in this fantasy league. So um, to be able to know the rules better and to be able to be a part of it, I think that was what was attractive for me, is to try to see how closely and how similar the two really are is crazy. And I think a lot of players, a lot of ex-players, and a lot of fans that just want to see and feel what it's really like to run a real major league team, I think are going to really enjoy it. And I think as a former player and somebody who is playing day in and day out, I think I was a little bit at fault of saying we just need to get Max Scherzer or whatever, and you just want the best players on your team. You want to win the most games, and every game is super important to win. But when you look at the big scheme of things, there's a lot more that goes into it. And that's what's cool about this, is that you have the opportunity to, scout players and do everything off the field and develop a franchise. And that's what's really, really interesting to me.
How about fantasy baseball in general? I don't imagine you were a fantasy baseball player when you were playing Major League Baseball, but before you got there, did you play at all?
I did one time. I didn't really play it growing up. I tried it one year, and I was in junior college. And I played the full year. And I just remember thinking, like, man, this is a lot of time. Like, I gotta check the starting pitching every day. I gotta check to see who's taking a day off, or if somebody just got injured or whatever it may be. And I loved it. It was something that I loved. I never did it again, just because time consuming and trying to be an athlete and being a student at the same time was time consuming in itself, and trying to deal with fantasy baseball on the side was probably just too much. But I really enjoyed it, and being able to look into something every single day. And that's the cool thing about baseball, is that they play 162 games plus the postseason, so there's always something going on, and there's always a new move to be made. So fantasy baseball to me is the most detailed and the most time consuming, something that you really need to focus on, and that's why I appreciate it.
Ian, you won a World Series in 2018 with the Boston Red Sox, one of the most iconic franchises in all of sports. I'd imagine you won the World Series a lot growing up in the backyard. What was that moment like, and was it everything you dreamed of?
I mean, it's, when I get that question, it's just the hardest feeling, just because you're at the pinnacle of your sport, and you've played your sport since you were a little kid. I mean, baseball I played since I was, 8 years old or whatever. So to reach the pinnacle and win uh, was the most memorable thing that you could ask for in that profession and in professional baseball. I had two opportunities before we won it in Boston and Texas, and we came close, but we didn't quite get there. And those seasons were so memorable, and being part of a winning team is something special. All those guys, you pick up a phone, call them, and it's like you really never miss a step, never missed a day. And it's the same way in Boston. Once you experience something like that with a group of guys, it just never goes away. And finally be on top and to finally win the whole thing was something special, and I was glad to be a part of it.
You hit a home run in your final major league at bat. It is quite a story that you can tell as far as final at bat stories, and it gets even cooler as you tell it. Can you take us through what that moment was like and all the crazy scenarios that put you in a very exclusive club?
Yeah, I remember a lot about it. I started the game on the bench. That last year in San Diego was a little rough, kind of getting towards the end of my career. Wasn't in the starting lineup as often as I had been in the past, and I was on the bench, and we were getting beat pretty badly by the Rays, by Tampa Bay, and and Andy Green asked me if I'd like to pitch. And I straight up no. I had no interest in pitching. That was not on my bucket list. And, he continued to say, hey, we kind of need you right now. It would be nice to give the bullpen a little rest. So, of course, I took the ball and went in there and, threw an inning. And crazy enough, the pitcher spot was due up the next inning. And I was able to hit one out of the park and get a good fastball and put a good swing on it. Coming back to the dugout, I was like, oh, okay, so this is what Babe Ruth feels like. Now it's like, this is what Shohei Ohtani feels like.
I don't know if there's anybody who has hit their last at-bat home run as a pitcher. Like, you have to be the only one.
Yeah, that's the other thing that's kind of weird looking back on it is I got the lineup card or whatever, and I got a little P next to my name, which is the only time ever in my career, and I happened to hit a home run on my last at-bat. So I have homered as a pitcher, yes.
Ian, you were considered one of the best second basemen of your generation. You will get to play in the Legends League with Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball. Who are some of the other legends from the second base position that you looked up to or tried to model your game after that will also end up in the Legends League with you?
Man, there's so many guys. Obviously like late Joe Morgan comes to mind. I grew up in the 90s and Sports Center, it wasn't like MLB Network today where you see every highlight of every game every day, and you see the ins and outs of everything that's going on, and you're able to capture every moment. When I was growing up, Sports Center, you had the top 10 plays. You'd have a little baseball tonight or something. Every once in a while, you get to see some baseball highlights, but the guy that I really remember just constantly making the top 10 or the best plays of the day, along with Ken Griffey Jr., was Roberto Alomar. Making sliding plays in the outfield and twisting and turning on the ground and throwing guys out, switch hitting, running the bases, just an electric type player. That's someone that I definitely watched, paid attention to, and then Craig Biggio was also a guy. He constantly was just getting hit by pitches, doing whatever it took, but also had the skills. He was just full of tenacity. He was just a hard-nosed player. Obviously started out as a catcher, ended up at second base, and then towards the end of his career played in the outfield a little bit. But guys were guys that I really respected and watched when I was a kid.
Ian, there are only 30 franchises available in Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball. Unless Major League Baseball expands, then so will we. But what would be your final message to anybody thinking of getting into this? You've played the game at the highest level. Now you're in the front office of the San Diego Padres. Why should somebody consider buying a franchise in Ultimate Fantasy League Baseball?
I mean, this league is encompassing, and if you ever dreamed of being in control of a major league franchise, like this is as close as you're going to get. To be able to see all of those aspects of the game, kind of rolled into one. I think, personally, I think the name needs to be changed. It's not necessarily fantasy. Like, it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of work, but it also just puts you closer to the game than I think people are used to. And, if you're interested in that, and I think that's super interesting to a lot of fans who are interested in the sport of baseball or whatever it may be, that would be my recommendation, is that it just brings you closer to the game than anything else.
Thank you very much, Ian. Franchise auctions will take place November 5th to 7th. If you would like more information, please email info@uflb@gmail.com or visit www.uffsports.com.